Howdy folks, Doc here with Last Best Tool. And when Harbor Freight's Doyle brand came out with a 14-ounce titanium framing hammer, at least the titanium head, I knew it was just a matter of time before I'd end up with one and try it out. Now this is a very similar design to a 14-ounce stiletto. If you look at these two, obviously the cheek is a little bit different. The head is very similar. The neck is almost identical. The nail holding slot is very similar. The mounting or the hanging of it is very similar. The stiletto on this side here. You can see that the stiletto is using two different sized circular wedges that are in there okay. This one could go down a little further versus the Doyle. Now it's not quite a fair comparison because I got this one. I did a pawn shop video. That's where I picked this guy up. There was a choice of one. On the other hand, at the Harbor Freight store, I actually went through every single one of the, I think they had 5 of these, looking for what I thought was the best. And that was the best in terms of the finish here. Some of these stuck up a little bit high. Some of these weren't quite centered. Some of the wedges caused some chipping around the edges. The heads all looked great. They all looked finished fine. I didn't notice anything, and that should be. But where I really spent some time was looking at the handles, and in particular, the grain orientation. Now, the grain orientation on this, if I hold these guys up on the stiletto, which is the lower one, is not quite as good as I would want. In fact, it's not very good at all. You can see you want the grain lined up. Now, I'm going to get arguments, I'm sure, in the comments. That's okay, about grain orientation and whether you want it perfect or a little bit off, or, you know, if it matters more, you know, at what point in the branch this particular piece of wood was taken. But overall, I do like that, and if you go to the Harbor Freight website and read the reviews, you will see a picture of, well, actually several, but where they snapped off. And if you look close at the grain in the snapped off ones looks like it's running exactly perpendicular to this. And that's exactly what will happen. You know, if you have the grain going sideways, you can break it. So anyway, if you have a choice, pay attention to grain orientation. They all looked really close. In fact, I think every one of them in the store was better than this stiletto. However, the stilettos and the Doyles are made in China. They do say genuine American hickory somewhere. Maybe I took that sticker off. But anyway, they claim American hickory, but just because it's American hickory doesn't mean it's correctly oriented, the best part of the branch, or even high quality hickory. So here's a couple of other things. The design of this is very similar to most framing hammers. Or, you know, the framing hammer usually has more of a straight claw, longer neck, large surface. Now they only come in a milled surface. There's a lot of people who want the smooth face. If you can get a smooth face one, you know, you aren't going to make all of those waffle patterns. However, a lot of framing hammers are coming out now with the milled face, which means that you're going to get probably a better purchase on the nail, especially if your angle is off, but it will leave a mark. So usually framing, you're not too worried about it. Finish work, absolutely get a smooth head. Now, here's something interesting. I weighed all of these different framing hammers, and you can see the weights on all of them. The head weight is listed. This is on the back, this is a Milwaukee. 22 ounces is the head weight. They say 36 ounces is the overall weight. That's a difference of 14 ounces. It means that the handle part in the measurement is 14 ounces. That is a lot. The DeWalt here is a 22 and it's 37. So it's even an ounce more. This Doyle, I've got 26.6 ounces on a 14 ounce handle. Okay, so that's 12.6 ounces more than the head. The stiletto has the same size handle, 14 ounces up here, 25. So this is 11 ounces that are not head. Now, why would I say that? Well, one of the reasons you go with a titanium hammer is to have a larger head but less weight. Because if you have a big head on the, something like this, you're going to be up in the 20s easily for that size head. Which means you're going to be swinging more weight, possibly more weight that's not head, and the titanium also has some lack of reverberation properties. It transfers more of the initial force into the nail. But there's another player here I want to bring out, and this is a Klein Tools framing hammer. It's designed a little bit different. First of all, this is a 20-ounce hammer, and it is steel. It is not titanium. Very fine, finish work up here. I know, tiny crack there, but you're going to get more. The wedges are seated properly. Does have a couple of nail removal ends or edges here. Strong magnetic nail holding, and it's also a little bit shorter up there, if you notice, compared to, I'll grab the Doyle here, how far the nail has to sit back. And so sometimes if you're using shorter nails, these designs, like on the Doyle here, the nail is too short to butt up against the striking surface back here, even though it might be held, because this is kind of a traditional neck design. You've got the cheek here, and then you've got this neck before the striking surface, and this right here seems to be a lot of tradition. So other companies or other designs of hammers use different size necks. There are climbing hammers, pounding pitons in the old days when you used to, rock climb with hammers. But this is a camping hammer. This is a Nemo here, Nemo equipment. Heavy duty, but you can see it's not only got a slanted face, but it also has a very short neck, or essentially no neck there. And I kind of like that. To me, it adds precision, especially if you're choking up on it. Here's an MSR. Somebody had asked me in the comments what this is because it made a quick appearance. But again, if you look at the distance, now sometimes you want either a curved handle or you want the neck further out, or a longer neck, to keep your knuckles from hitting something, which they certainly would if I was hitting something flush. But a lot of times you're not flush up against the entire surface, you're flush up against part of it. In this case, it would be a tent stake or something like that. However, I do like the feel of this, and honestly, I picked it up in the store and thought, this is great. Just something about it. It is a little bit shorter. It's about 1.5 inches shorter handle than these others. But look at that grain. I was impressed instantly. And there was a total of 1 of these. And then I went on the Klein website trying to find it online, and I couldn't. I'm going to dig around more. Here is the number, H80920H. I don't know what that K07 means, a few other things. This is what it looks like. But here's something interesting. See that 30.2 on a 20-ounce hammer? Essentially, it's a 10-ounce difference between the head and the total weight of the hammer. Yes, I did lose a couple inches, but I don't think that's 2 inches. Otherwise, this would be, a 20-ounce increase or 15-ounce increase, given it's a 17-ounce or 17-inch length. So I felt this and thought, it feels light. It feels, in my hand, much like a titanium hammer. In terms of the head weight versus the overall swing weight. So I was impressed, and it's a little bit different design. A lot of times the straight claws are good for separating attached wood. They're good for deconstruction. They're not necessarily the greatest for nail pulling, but they do work. Usually there are other things on it. But overall, I really like this, and it was under $30. Which you might say is a lot for a framing hammer. You can get $10 framing hammers or even less. But I was so used to using like Estwings, or even this old Milwaukee here. It's been in my old videos, had my original Estwing, which is just all beat up. But anyway, having a metal hammer where you've got so much of the weight in the handle really changes the dynamic. Now, is this worth the $60? Which is basically about $40 less, maybe 30 if they're on sale. Then maybe, or I guess, yeah, about $40 less than the the stilettos, I would imagine they're very similar. This does have that Harbor Freight lifetime warranty. It feels very much similar. And if you can choose a good orientation in the grain, great. It is a bigger hammer or bigger handle. I know some people have ground this down a little bit to fit their hand. And I do like this slope a little bit. There is a swell there that allows you to hang onto it or index it, whereas some of the other hammers don't have a quite as pronounced a slope. And then, of course, Estwing is completely symmetrical. If I take the hammer or the head out of it, do you even know which way this thing fits? So you can kind of see. But anyway, overall, yeah, I'm glad they're doing it. I have no idea why they're doing it. It's kind of a niche item. Not everyone wants titanium, and often those people who do like the titanium also have a steel-headed hammer. My guess is you probably aren't going to want to loan it out. You do have to often reinforce this. Titanium can be a little bit brittle and snap off, so you can't thin out the claws the same way you can with a steel hammer. But overall, I like this direction. It's kind of interesting that they're producing kind of a Gucci hammer. And when I went back quite a while later, I mean like a month and a half later, I did notice that they had sold, as far as I could tell, 0 of them, because this one I remember, and I had set it way on the edge of the display, thinking if I wanted one, maybe that's the one I'd get. And I thought I should stick it way at the back. I just left it on the front, and it was still sitting there, you know, over a month later. Anyway, so if you've got one of those, let me know. If you wonder what Harbor Freight is doing, you know, share your questions, because this is an odd, kind of a Gucci item. It attracted attention, you know, but it's a very narrow target audience, which usually isn't what Harbor Freight goes after. Anyway, just curious what your thoughts are, and with that, Doc out.